All right, all right, all right. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Championship Sunday, it's come and gone. And we have a Premier League champion, a four-peat, as far-fetched as it sounded in the beginning of the year or in the beginning of the season, and maybe throughout the course of the season, really. City has proven with its coach Pep Guardiola that they can do and undo. A season coming off a treble, City are on course to not only do a four-peat for the Premier League title, but complete a double, something that very few analysts saw coming, given that after a treble winning season, many teams have usually slumped off. But that's not to say this is the story for City, and it's not to say it's the same for this Premier League as we have grown to know it. So, without yapping too much about what has happened so far, let me
Yeah,
introduce
just 1 minute, I come.
the folks on the panel with me. I have Tru3lion, who is the football encyclopedia. Well, he is the football analyst, the man who knows and undoes everything. Not the human encyclopedia, but he is very, very good at what he does, and he can dissect the game to levels you never even thought of. Let's welcome Tru3lion. Hey, brother, how are you doing today, but big
Yeah,
man?
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's a beautiful day, beautiful football. Unfortunately, we are at the end of the season,
Yeah,
and Manchester City actually have just been crowned. They made history, so let's talk about it.
yeah. So, I we don't have the football encyclopedia in human form today, so I want to just pull up the table. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. It's crazy. It's crazy. Man City at the top. Look at the winning form. 91 points. Arsenal second with 89 points. The winning run, 5 games won. Last 5 games, both teams have won. And look at the goal difference: 62 goals and 62 plus goals. So 96 goals scored for City, 34 conceded. 91 goals scored for Arsenal, 29 conceded. Truth is, many folks thought that today was going to have so many surprises. I, for one, as an Arsenal fan, I thought there was going to be a surprise somewhere, but having to always rely on a team that's not, on a result that's not dependent on you, it becomes really tough to even win the title that way. And historically, when you go into the final day of the league at the top of the table, the team that's already there on the final day always almost wins. True Lion, what are your quick thoughts about the title race as it's gone down? Because I know from, I think, week 28, week 28, it's been a very, very interesting run of games, with Arsenal and City and even Liverpool at some point, right? But we are at the end of it. City has triumphed. Let's talk for a minute. You just talk about the game, what it means for City to win this championship, this title. and also what it means in terms of a four-peat in the history of the Premier League, right? Because this is a historical moment for City, and big ups and congratulations to City fans and Pep Guardiola. What are your quick thoughts, True
I
Lion?
mean, when this title was all in City's hands, there was no indication from my standpoint that City was going to lose this, especially when you had all of their players. I'm talking about this season. I've been talking about Foden. He's the EPL Player of the Year. The way he plays, even without a De Bruyne, I think he's even better when he plays without a De Bruyne because he can have that free role and he can actually go everywhere. Coming into this game, City knew that all they needed to do was to win, and we saw how they started the game, scoring within 2 minutes. I mean, what a well drilled and well coached team, right? So they knew if they come out and play at a very high level, West Ham, although West Ham was willing to actually come out and play and maybe surprise Manchester City, it was not feasible, being that Manchester City was playing in front of their crowd, started on a high tempo, scored an early goal, went on to score number two. Yes, Kudu, one of the players who had been talking that West Ham was going to fight and that he's going to fight for Partey to win the EPL. He scored one of the best goals in the EPL. What a talent. I expect him be suited by many big teams this summer. He scored a great goal, but we saw how Manchester City, although they were missing so many chances, they were focused, and Rodri scored that goal that sealed everything for Manchester City. Doku was my best player today, although he did not score. I mean, the energy he put, the second goal that Foden scored, that pass was actually. And so you see all these players, Manchester City, well coached team by Pep Guardiola, well prepared, and they know how to play big games. Arsenal, of course, I won't take anything away from them. For me, they were as good a team as Manchester City. Yes, they fell short 2 points, but Arsenal, bear this in mind. Maybe you hear this from me for the first time. I bet you Arsenal is going to win the EPL next season.
Wow,
That's
that's
it.
a bold prediction, a very bold prediction. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely progress for Arsenal to see. And I like how, you pointed out the fact that once it got to City's hands, once everything was in City's hands, based on your analysis, you didn't see it slipping up. Much like when it was in Liverpool's hands, Liverpool kind of dropped the ball, and then it became it was in Arsenal's hands, and Arsenal dropped the ball sort of by losing that game to Aston Villa, and then they became second, and then City took over, and since that point, City has not dropped a single point or lost a game, right? What is to say about the level of the Premier League? There are some folks who have talked about the fact that it's fast becoming a farmers' league because City has won four times. Do you necessarily see it that way?
I mean, that's the narrative, right? When a team dominates the league, that's the narrative. But I basically don't see it that way because Arsenal gave them a run for their money. For me, Liverpool was never there. They finished 7 points off Arsenal and 9 points off Manchester City. For me, Liverpool was just never there. Yeah, they had some good runs, but I didn't see Liverpool actually doing anything as far as title contenders, in my opinion.
Mhm. A lot of historical moments to talk about in the Premier League. Jurgen Klopp, one of the best coaches in the Premier League. Final game today saw his Liverpool team win, which was a good thing for him. It's a good send off 2-0 to Wolves. They were at home. I didn't get to catch a lot of the celebrations and the parting gifts or goodbye celebrations or whatever. But what are your quick thoughts, Jurgen Klopp? History, making a coach for Liverpool, somebody who has come in there, brought a Champions League, brought a title, even in this Pep era. And he's finally hanging up his coaching cloak, if I can say that. Any quick words about Jurgen Klopp and what he has meant to the Premier League and to Liverpool?
Well, he's a great coach, and he has done actually something good for to the Premier League. However, as you just said, Pep's dominance will make history forget a lot of these guys because when you look at history, they would not talk how good these coaches were. I mean, how good they actually came close. He won only one title, right?
Yes.
Under Pep, but he came so close, losing by 1 point on the final day, just like Arteta is actually struggling against Pep Guardiola. But Klopp, actually will be noted because when you look at Liverpool, it took him time to build it, but when Liverpool got going, we can remember the clashes against Tottenham, against Manchester City. He has actually done something very good to help build and change the culture of football in England.
Okay. All right, great. Let's go to Arsenal. You said you had a very bold prediction saying that next season Arsenal can actually win the league. We've seen progression from Arsenal, right? As an Arsenal fan, I think when Arteta first came in, it was eighth position, and then over the last two seasons, it's been second and second. Last year was second, but the manner in which Arsenal ended up being second after leading the league for like 180 days plus. It was a lot of talking points about, oh, they bottled the league. This year has not been the same story. Arsenal started off a little slower pace, and they kind of maintained and gave City a run for their money towards the end of the league, right? Your prediction is that Arsenal is going to definitely be in the title talk again next season and possibly win it, right? So, what is your quick rating, or let me say score, on how Arsenal has performed this season? And any advice to Arsenal fans, like what are the positives you've seen? What are the things you think Arsenal need to do to get over that hunch? Last year they were behind City, I think, 5 points. This year they've closed the gap. They only were behind City by 2 points. Um, and you say next year it is going to be the reverse, right? But what do you think Arsenal needs to do right now to get to that point where they can actually be a title winner, no longer a contender?
I think Arsenal will definitely need a centre forward, but centre forward is not the reason why they actually lost this year. Arsenal in the 2024 calendar year has lost only one game, that game against Aston Villa. So it's just because Manchester City has been a very, very good team. But I think Arteta is a smart manager who learns really fast, and that's been proven. And the way I see Arsenal going forward is that they will actually go for a centre forward, and they have actually also gotten that depth in their squad. And I see the players also learning under the leadership of Odegaard because the game today was not pretty, but Arsenal found a way to win, and we have seen Arsenal being able to change their approach. When they started the season, they were winning close games, they were struggling, but Arteta was definitely trying to teach his team that you cannot win beautiful. Sometimes you have to win ugly. And I think Arsenal has learned that, and also the experience of the Champions League, the way they were kicked out of the Champions. I also think that that has actually helped Arsenal see that they are very close. And if they spend on the right players this summer, I predict Arsenal will be able to go because I think Aston Villa was not the game that actually made Arsenal lost this title. The game against Manchester City, where they went to Manchester City just to get a draw instead to going out
Draw.
against Manchester City and punching Manchester City in the face. That's for me where Arsenal actually failed to win this EPL, not the loss against Aston Villa because Aston Villa came out and played football, and Arsenal tried to attack. Aston Villa was a good team on that day, and they were just a better team beating Arsenal. They were more clinical on that day, beating Arsenal 2-0. But I think where Arsenal dropped the ball was that game, that draw against Manchester City.
Agreed. And I personally think, as an Arsenal fan, I think actually Arsenal lost this league when they lost to Fulham on that last day of the 2023. Losing that game to Fulham was just not, because the team didn't even come out to play. That was the first game Arsenal played. The third game Arsenal played this season with zero chances created in the first half. The game against Aston Villa, most folks will talk about, but I think Arsenal was actually very good on that day. It's just that we were not clinical. Most of the attackers didn't have their shooting boots on. But let's not dwell too much on Arsenal. I appreciate the points you've raised there. They're really good. Phil Foden. Let's talk about Phil Foden. Player of the season. I didn't even know that the awards were given out yesterday. I'd been so busy running around, I didn't even get a chance to spend a few minutes on my phone to see. But huge kudos to him. Today he took the game by the scruff of it. His goal, like you said, was magnificent. What is to say about a player so young, so talented, and coming in there and starting to act like a leader? in a team that has so many leaders, right? What is to say about City's prospects for the next few seasons, with or without Pep Guardiola?
Well, Phil Foden is the product of Pep Guardiola, and that's yesterday I was having this conversation with some veteran guys from VFC Maryland,
Hmm.
and we're talking about the legacy of Pep Guardiola, and I told him that Pep Guardiola has actually changed, helped change the culture of football in the EPL. That insisting from playing from behind, everybody now is insisting from playing from behind, but not only the culture. I mean, you see that through players like Phil Foden that we're talking now today. When the season started and De Bruyne was injured, that said Phil Foden had his opportunity. He has taken that opportunity. He likes playing that free role. Even when De Bruyne is not there, I think he plays one of his best games. We've seen that in the Champions League. Last year when they won the Champions League, we saw how Phil Foden, how far he has come. He has come from. Now, English fans are waiting to see that transition into their national team. I'm sorry to say that it might not happen because of the way he's been played. He's not been given the keys. The system is just totally different. Then you have to adjust to other players around you. Okay? But with Manchester City, when you see what Phil Foden, 18 goals this season, 9 assists or something like that,
Hmm.
even De Bruyne in his best. I'm not sure about the stats and all that, but I'm not sure De Bruyne ever scored 18 goals in the EPL, and you can say that Phil Foden is doing that, not even kicking penalties. Is he kicking penalties?
No, he
So
doesn't.
he's yeah. So he's actually he's been actually he for me he's been the best player actually at Manchester City because that number 10 he can evolve really well in that number 10 role as a playmaker and score. But now, should Arsenal have won the EPL, I would have said Odegaard would be my player. So it could be Phil Foden or Odegaard, easily. But Phil Foden has been huge for Manchester City this season.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Phil Foden has 19 goals. Second rated, second behind Erling Haaland, who has 27 goals, right?
Yeah,
And
and you see a lot of people are talking about Cole Palmer, Chelsea. But Phil Foden is one of the reasons that Cole Palmer could not have some game time
cannot
uh,
play
uh, uh,
City play.
at City.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, at City. He could not have some game time, and also Mares.
Mhm. So it's understood, and like you said, unfortunately, it's not going to translate to the English league, to the English national team because, of course, of the way they set up and the way he's played there, and the coach, I think Gareth Southgate, relies on other players to do the job that Pep relies on Foden for. That's understood. So, um, but let's talk about prospects of him continuing to on this trajectory, right? Even though we know the Euros are coming, he's not going to probably get that role in the English national team. Um, how do you see next season playing out for City? There's talk about Pep Guardiola definitely leaving at the end of his contract because he's not agreed to renew just yet. Um, what are your quick thoughts about that? Any thoughts about that?
There's so much destruction coming now with City. How many case do they have against them? Maybe
115 counts. Yeah.
yeah, maybe that's gonna just cloud their season. I mean next year, but I mean it's left to be seen, right? Uh, I don't really know. I can't really tell. But I think Phil Foden will continue doing what as soon as he's on the pitch and all that because we've seen how they can actually just block out all the cloud around them and continue playing their football. So if Pep Guardiola is still there, I think this team will actually go again for a record fifth time. They will be there. They will try to. But as I said earlier, I think Arsenal for me is well placed to go ahead and win it all for next season.
Okay. All right. Enough about City. Enough about Pep. Enough about Foden. We've talked. We have four teams that have qualified for the Champions League: Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa. We lost. Aston Villa lost 5-0 today. I was shocked. To Crystal Palace, but there was not really much more to play for because they had already qualified for the Champions League. Yes, and so um, I imagine they just didn't really care too much about how the game would have gone. But looking at Aston Villa's form. They've lost their last four out of the last 5 games. They've lost four and one and drawn one. I'm taking into account here the games against Olympiacos also, right? The European games. So in the Premier League. So what is to say about this team? What do you? It's an Unai Emery team. What do you think? Do you think they will have the goods to compete in the Champions League? Being that they're coming back in it after what 41 years.
To compete, well, compete. I don't know.
Do you think they will have the goods to compete in the Champions League?
No, it's gonna be difficult doing Champions League and the league. And if they're not careful, what happened to Newcastle will actually happen to them.
Ah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And talking about Newcastle, there's a chance they may not get in, and they may get in the European foot. They will not get a chance to play in European football. And I think it's Chelsea if Man U wins the FA Cup, right? Because that allows Man U to go in, and then Chelsea drops out of the European title content European tournament. So we have Spurs playing in the Europa League, they're fifth, and then Chelsea in the European Conference League. But like I said, Man United plays against Man City, the FA Cup in a week's time. And if Man United were to win, then Chelsea doesn't get to participate in the European Conference League because Man United will then be the ones who participate in that tournament, even though they placed eighth on the table. All right. Quick thoughts about um, accolades for the season, I guess. Let's talk about um, your moment of the season. What do you think? We talked about, you mentioned Kudus's goal, Mohamed Kudus's goal today, being one of the best. I think it was top shelf. I think it's actually the best goal of the season because I've not seen a goal that good. He set himself up. So he gave himself an assist and that goal. He set
Yeah.
himself up and then did the bicycle kick. So, what are your quick thoughts? Best moment of the season for you so far?
No, I think the season has been very, very interesting for me. It's not like I cannot pick a moment to say the best moment of the season. I mean, the 2024 for Arsenal, playing how many games and winning just losing just one in this calendar year. I think that's a moment which is actually a timeline of events put together because if we watch football just to who wins and who loses, we'll say, okay, yeah, that's kind of straightforward. We'll say, yeah, Manchester City is the best team of the EPL. But for me, when I look at the performance all around, Arsenal for me was the best team this season. And so I picked that timeline on events in 2024 calendar year to say that for me was the best moment of the season.
Okay. And anything that stands out as the worst moment of the season for you?
What teams have disappointed? I don't like when points have been deducted. I think that took away this team from a team like Everton.
Everton.
And I
Yeah.
understand financial fair play or whatever they did. I do not actually care to really go into all that facts. Um, for me, that was and the way VAR. Let me say no. Let me put it out there. The way VAR has handled some cases, especially against Nottingham Forest. For me, those are the worst moments of the season.
Yeah.
VAR.
I actually think the day the Liverpool goal was disallowed against Spurs, and
Oh
that
yeah.
was a
Oh
little
yeah.
late earlier on in the season. That was the worst call VAR has ever made, and as a ref, man, it hurt because even the linesman should have called that out. Even when they were trying to restart the game, the linesman should have been like, "No, I saw this. This was offside. It should have been in the referee's ear." But it is what it is. There's some talk about Wolves having petitioned that VAR shouldn't be used next season, and that it needs to go to vote on June 6th when they meet for the AGM. When the owners meet for the AGM, what do you think? Do you think Wolves has a shot at getting VAR out of the Premier League?
No, VAR is here to stay.
Yeah. It just I think it's a system that's good. Just needs to be improved. I mean, if they can figure out a way to get to the decisions a lot quicker, and get as much information as they can right off the bat, it will be very helpful. And there is much to say about the fact that they are going to be using automated offside systems going starting 2025, right? That's a very good decision because this thing about drawing lines is still subjective to some level, because you do have to try to pinpoint where the person's arm is and things like that, tie, or where the end of his boot start or something like that, and then figure out where to put the line. I think the automated system will really help take out a lot of these, because in the Champions League we don't see a lot of those issues, right? All right. Season history making season. Man City, amazing stuff for you guys. Congratulations. The last three of this league are relegated, and these are the three that were promoted just last season. I'll call in order: Luton Town, Burnley, and then Sheffield United. Um, is this an indication that the Premier League is so tough that folks that come in every, will most likely get relegated? What are your quick thoughts on that? Because I'm looking at the championship right now, and they're in the playoffs, right? Leeds United currently leading in its own semifinal, and I think the other team is also a former Premier League participant. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is going to be a really interesting year, where you have teams that used to be in the Premier League last season back in the Premier League. With Leicester already securing its spot, of course, and Ipswich Town. Um, it, do you Let me put the question this way: do you see this kind of thing happening again next season,
No,
based
it's
on the
not.
fact that, yeah.
It's not. It's not actually predictable. The teams were not just good enough. I don't think it's a. It's an issue of Champions League teams not good enough to play. Those teams were actually not good enough.
Mhm. Okay, but I mean, anybody you see out of these three who was relegated that you really would have liked to stay in the Premier League?
None.
None.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the level.
No, we're not good enough.
Anybody who survived, whom you would have liked to see drop? Because I would have loved to see Nottingham Forest drop.
No, I told you Nottingham Forest was not going to drop. They were just the good. Even they were deducted to 4 points. Or how many points were they deducted?
Or 4 points.
Or is it 4 points or 2 points? I'm not sure.
It
Yeah,
was
but
four. It was four.
yeah. So, but they still survived with 6 points differential. So I didn't think they have a good coach. I didn't think, and they have some good players.
Yeah. So most likely it will be between Leeds United or Southampton. So we're gonna have Ipswich Town. We're gonna have um uh what's the other team? Leicester City in the Premier League next season, and it could be between Leeds United or Southampton, because they play the final on Sunday, May 26th, for the playoffs, the promotion playoffs, and one of them will come back to the Premier League. So we're gonna have these three teams in the Premier League. I don't know what Leeds United looks like nowadays, but knowing that they beat Norwich 4-0 in the second semi-final to qualify is really good. Tells me the team is pretty good. This is the Marcelo Bielsa team, before he was fired. That was really, really good. I was causing a lot of trouble in the Premier League. It was kind of sad that they dropped back to the Championship when I looked at it last year. But them coming back will be a good sign for the league, and I think it's gonna continue. Because they play football so well and fearlessly. Sort of what I thought Luton was trying to do this season, but it just wasn't good enough. So let's pivot. Let's pivot. We've talked about the Premier League for some time now. We see the standings. Everything is clear. Man City four-pit, 4 times in a row, consecutive wins, consecutive leading of the championship. Let's talk about the Champions League. We'll pivot to the Champions League because we have a final coming up between Real Madrid and Dortmund. And I think in a lot of the preview shows that we've done in the past, we've kind of looked at prospects for these teams and try to figure out who we think is going to win and all that good stuff. So I want to just leave it open to you, Tru3lion. Do you have any quick thoughts about how this final will go down? Um, who wins it? Is it a situation where Real Madrid actually just comes back in and reclaims its place at the throne, or do you see a Dortmund team that's going to be in trouble and possibly take home this thing um, on a second try in, I think, 4 years?
I think it's gonna be one game. So one game is actually different from home and away. And
Mm.
if Dortmund can actually take a page out of, if they look how Leipzig played Real Madrid, even in the game that was played in Spain, Leipzig gave problems to Real Madrid. Should Dortmund win this title, it's gonna be on defense. They will have to depend on their defensive stance, defending as a team. The wingers falling back to help the wing backs, and their ability to turn defense into offense, transitioning with Adeyemi, with a guy like Adeyemi, because I think Madrid is at its best when they are on the defense. If you're attacking them for most of the game, they're gonna shred you with a guy like Vinicius and Rodri up front, and then they can transition with Bellingham, Kroos, and all that. They have the players to do it. However, they are not as good when you let them have possession. I've seen that many times, but what Dortmund has to do is defend well and try to beat Real Madrid on counter-attack football and then on corner kicks. Here, Courtois is coming back. Yes, if Courtois is coming back, he's a better goalkeeper in corner kicks and all that. But the Ukrainian guy has a problem with corner kicks. The ball's been floated in, you know. So, of course, football, it is what it is. Real Madrid favorites, I'll say 60% against 40, but I believe Borussia Dortmund can close that gap and maybe surprise Real Madrid.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a fun game. It should be a fun game. I heard Chumeni is actually injured. He had sustained a foot injury, and I was a little surprised that that happened. And he might not be available until the end of June or mid June, something like that. I don't know if it's just talk, but in the absence of Chumeni, I don't know that Real Madrid will be able to necessarily stop Dortmund from playing that midfield, because these guys they're so vibrant in the way they play in that midfield, and they almost they use it as a decoy almost to play, to use their wingers to like run down those wings. Adeyemi and what's the other guy on the right? Sancho, the Manu reject.
Yeah,
Sancho. They make you look like a toy, because of the way they play in that midfield area. It's almost like a five that's always circling in that midfield. Marco Ruiz, what's his name, Sabitzer, and even Emre Chan, depending on whoever
yeah,
starts.
but I
That.
don't think the way for Dortmund to win this game is actually trying to compete in the midfield.
Mhm.
But I think if they can defend and frustrate Real Madrid, because Real Madrid is not good on the ball.
That's
They
true.
are more dangerous off the ball. So let them have possession. Let them have try to find ways in order to break you defensively. Then you try to be clinical on counterattacks and corner kicks. That's
Yeah.
how Dortmund can beat. Because if you look at Manchester City played the game and Real Madrid won. Why was that? Because Manchester City could not defend when Real Madrid, scored that early goal, and then they could not defend also in Madrid when it was actually 3-3. But they did all the playing. Now, teams that have come close to beat uh, we saw actually Bayern Munich. I talked about
Mhm.
Leipzig, and if you watch that game, RB Leipzig against Real Madrid, you will understand that they came
Mhm.
close because they were the smaller team. They defended and let Real Madrid have the ball, and that's what I think Borussia Dortmund can actually surprise Real Madrid by letting Real Madrid play, but also making sure that they defend well and compact at the back.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see how that goes. You're right. Leipzig had the really came really close to knocking Real Madrid out, and even Man City. In all the games, really, Madrid hasn't been able to play. We've actually enjoyed the opponents more, but Madrid have come up with the good. And it's all this air of big brother, like this big brother who they know how to play the competition, I guess. Um, Ancelotti just knows how to set up his team to do that. All right, great, great, great. Enough about the Champions League. I just want us to close. I'm trying to see. I don't see any comments yet, and I'm thinking we've exhausted our topics for the day. In the absence of Ajab, I think we've covered enough of what we needed to cover. But I'm looking at one thing to maybe just say before we close out. I just want to congratulate Bayer Leverkusen, the Bundesliga. the first Bundesliga team to complete a season without losing a game, right? I think they tied 6 games and then won the rest of their games out of 24 games. Like they won 28 games. Like what Jabi Alonso is doing there is unbelievable. You cannot talk about football without mentioning that. I know there's only one English team that has actually ever had an invincible season, which is Arsenal. And I think that's the one thing that Arsenal fans dwell on or they fall back on a lot when they talk about their history, right? But I wanted to give you the chance here to just maybe give us some parting words, close out with some quick thoughts about how you think the football world is as a whole, really, like all encompassing. And you can take this question in any direction you want, but I just want you to kind of just pulse it on how you feel you see the football world. The seasons are, the various leagues in the countries are coming to an end. We're getting ready to start the Euros, the Copa America, and then reset for a new season. Right? We're going to start seeing a lot of people talking about transfer rumors left and right, new transfers. Teams will be going back to the bank to try to get money to make sure that they can either shore up their teams or sell, clear the room. So just free reign. Tell me which teams you think need to sign players, which teams you think need to clear out and reset, which teams you think need to like redirect their whole process or rebuild their teams, which teams based on how you've seen the season and which teams of course to stay engaged. So floor is open.
Well, I usually like to follow. I mean, to see what teams are doing, then I can analyze. And it's
Mhm.
tough, difficult to say which player should go where and all that. For me, the transfer market is interesting. When the rumors come, that I can analyze on and see what's happening, because it's actually tough to get insight if you are not inside, but if you're sitting outside and looking inside. So let the rumors come up. But there's one player that I've said, if any top team needs a player that can make a difference. We saw him today in Kudus of West Ham, that Ghanaian. He's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. Olise also of Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, those are players. I mean, Eze also, Chukwueze, Crystal Palace. I mean, those are players. Let's see what Arsenal actually does. I know Arsenal will be going for a centre forward.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of people are saying that they should let Partey go. Believe me, if Arsenal lets Partey go, then I'll withdraw my statement about them winning the Champions League, winning the EPL next
Yeah,
season. What they should hope is that he should stay healthy.
healthy.
Partey stays healthy. There's no player, even maybe Rodri. Yeah, Rodriguez. But for me, when you talk about pure talent, the way for me, there's no central defensive midfielder in the EPL like Partey. Unfortunately, he's African, right?
Very true.
They don't get enough accolades and all that, but
Yeah,
there's no central defensive midfielder in the EPL like Partey. I
absolutely
enjoy
agree.
him. That's my opinion.
Hmm. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And I'm glad you pointed out Olise and Kudus because I think those guys are even Eze. They're really, really talented and need to really they need to move this summer. It would be interesting to see that if they started next season in the same teams, I would be really shocked. Maybe because their price tags may be too high or something. But outside of that, I think they definitely need to move to different teams.
On,
They are just too
yeah,
many, as
sorry
easy
for
as that
cut-
is.
yeah, sorry for continuing, but I don't think Olise and Chukwueze really need to move out of Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace just needs to give them maybe a better contract. They surely need
Okay.
to stay 1 or 2 more years in Crystal Palace under this coach and play the same type of football they're actually playing. They just whooped Aston Villa. Obviously, it's true that Aston Villa they had nothing to play. 5-0. They beat Liverpool. They shredded Manchester United. It's just imagine next year them coming with the same energy. A Crystal Palace is gonna be a tough place to go play.
But historically, Crystal Palace has always sold their players, though, and that's
I
kind
do
of worrying.
agree. I do agree, but this time
Yeah,
around, you make a change because the value is gonna increase in the next 1 or 2 years. If they continue playing this type of football, the value is gonna maybe triple.
Very true. Very true. All right. So let's see where Mohamed Kudus ends up next season then, right? Because he's just been at West Ham for 1 year. I don't know that he gets to move, but I hear his price tag is already 100 million. I don't know. 85 plus. I don't know. I mean, there's so many rumors out there about it, but I really, really do like him. I don't think he's a good fit for West Ham, but I think he can do better somewhere else. Maybe an Aston Villa, I don't know, Chelsea, maybe, I don't know, man, I don't know, Arsenal, maybe, I don't know, whatever. But anything else for the viewers before we go?
Well, yes, Malas thing. I don't think he can go to Arsenal because you don't take a player like that to Arsenal when he plays the same wing with Saka. It's just gonna they just gonna bump head, and it might not be a good thing for the club. And Paqueta might be leaving West Ham, so I don't think
Yeah,
Kudus actually leaves. The only way Kudus leaves is if they bring like real big money, maybe 100 million, as you're saying, then West Ham leaves and go. But they're letting a guy like Kudus leave and also Paqueta leave is gonna be tough. Of course, we know David Moyes is also leaving, so let's see how who comes in as the new coach. Then that will be actually critical for the players.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I think when a new coach comes in, things change really rapidly. And we also heard about the Zerbi leaving Brighton because there's been some difference in opinion as to how the team should move forward. So the Zerbi finally he basically had his final game today as coach um, for Brighton, which was a very surprise. A very big surprise to me. I hear rumors of him going to Barcelona, but I'm not too sure that that's actually anything that's true. Because I read, Thiago Mota was the one offered the job to come and coach Barcelona.
No,
But
Motta's actually going to Juve.
Juve, okay, all right, so that's been confirmed. Wow,
Yeah,
okay,
he's going to Juve.
so
The
it's
Zerbi,
then
I don't think
it's
the Zerbi can coach
possible that this
Barcelona.
trip is actually going to Barcelona then,
I,
right?
I, I don't think the Zerbi can coach Barcelona.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Well, there's
there are good coaches. There are good coaches coming up, but the credentials is not. Of course, Barcelona doesn't usually go for the big coaches and all that. But hey, I don't think there's Zabi. For me, I'm not. Yeah, he's playing good football, but I'm still not convinced.
Okay. Yeah, because this was like I think he left Shakhtar Donetsk and then came to Brighton, right? And that was like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And now he's already leaving. I don't know, man. This guy is starting to become like maybe a Mourinho might
Well,
be
no, Brighton is
because
for me.
two
For me,
years.
Brighton is in a decline. For me, Brighton is that they didn't have a good season this year. So for me, I mean,
Yeah. They didn't have a good season at all. Maybe they go back for their old coach who went to Chelsea. Who knows? Let's see how the summer shapes up, guys. Well, I don't see any comments. So let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for being on True Lion. Really, really appreciate the conversation as always. Anything else, guys? Please, please, please do share. Do share, like, subscribe to our channel. It's tough, growing pains, right? This is the first time we've done this, and we didn't really do it for the full season. We came in halfway through what the season has started. So we hope that we'll take the summer off, learn some new techniques on how to do these things right. And when we come back to you next season, as the season starts, we will be in tip-top shape. But that's not to say we're not going to be coming to you as often as we can, to cover some of the soccer or football, some of the football news that's around the world, as well as the tournaments that are coming up. Right, we are going to have the Euros, we're going to have Copa America, and amongst other things like qualifying games, qualifiers. Cameroon has a qualifier game coming up. The coach has already put his selection out, and there was a lot of talk about that. So we will have these various conversations as time goes, and make sure we keep you abreast of what's happening. So thank you guys so much for being on the football trio. True Lion, any last words?
no. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for keeping the rendezvous. Have a good rest of your day. Let's talk soon. Bye for
Okay,
now.
thank you.